Well,
So
wait, it said live.
now we're live.
Yes, and it's
Hello.
All right, now we're live. Apparently, we needed that little red button. Welcome, guys, to today's live YouTube live panel. Joined with me, of course, is Daniel Soul and Brie Castellini. But before we dive into today's topic on why your short film may or may not be rejected by a film festival, allow me to introduce myself and all the hosts that are bringing you here today. I myself am Kay Ross, the community manager at Stage 32, although you may also know me as writer, director, producer at Owl Echo Entertainment. Now, Stage 32 is the largest online platform for connecting with fellow film, television, and media professionals. And the spirit of Stage 32 is very much not just bringing value, but giving value back. And truly, out of thanks for the very kind time that our panelists are giving to you, I humbly ask that you take a moment and give back to them. So if you have available, take out your phone, get a picture of our screen so that everybody else can see the very cool thing that's about to happen here on YouTube Live, and get a picture, right? We're gonna count down. 3, 2, 1. Make sure you get that on. Oh yeah. All right, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Aw, okay. And then, if you would do us a favor, share it on your favorite social. Most of us are on Instagram. And Kevin, if you would give those links so that you guys can tag us. And that way we can, again, just give a little thanks to this very generous time that our panelists are giving to us. Now, during the panel, we are going to be taking questions from you, the audience. But we have a few questions we wanted to start with first. Before we dive in, I do want to let our panelists do a little intro. And Daniel, just because you are the co-founder and co-director of HollyShorts, who we're partnering with for this panel today, I'd love for you to start out by telling us a little bit about what it is you do, how it is you kind of got there. And, I'm a big fan of geeking out. So I feel like let's talk about the short film that became a feature or a series that's one of your favorites.
Great. Well, thank you, Kay. Yeah, my name is Daniel Soul. I'm the co-founder and co-festival director of the HollyShorts Film Festival. Now in our anniversary year of year 20, so it's a big year. It's our 20th anniversary coming up this August 8th through 18th at the TCL Chinese Theater in Hollywood. So we were getting all prepped right now for that. Post this panel, I'll be back to the films and back to the programming, and the work continues. But yeah, so as mentioned, co-founder with Theo Dumont. We start so HollyShorts is our baby. We started from inception. So we've grown and really pushed forward with this for 20 years. And not only do HollyShorts in August, but we have monthly screenings. We have our HollyShorts Comedy Festival in April, and we're doing stuff annually. Not only just HollyShorts, but of course also doing HollyShorts London this year in December. So we keep busy year round. So yeah, that's a little bit about HollyShorts, and my involvement, of course, is I'm the programmer and festival director, and yeah, so heavily involved in all things HollyShorts and all things festival planning and prep. Yeah. Oh, and last question: the on the shorts to feature side, my sort of obvious answer always is I go back to our champion and favorite short, Skin won HollyShorts 2018, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, or 17, 18, one of the years. It won HollyShorts, and we qualified it, and it went on to win the Oscar for Best Short Live Action. And that film also was followed up by a feature film from Guy Nativ as well. He had his feature version of Skin that was picked up by A24 and played at Tribeca after HollyShorts a month later. So HollyShorts was the world premiere of Skin in August, and then his world premiere of the feature film was a month later at Toronto in September.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a pretty cool example of a shorts to feature situation where both films did a lot of things in their own right. Obviously the short won the Oscar, and that's very cool and amazing.
Yeah, man.
But the feature film got distribution theatrically and of course online and everything and globally. So it did well in festivals and was picked up and distributed. So both films did, I guess, the thing that they wanted to happen for both projects separately. And the films are different in their own way.
Sure.
So the short's a feature, same title and same thing, but a little bit different in the cast and things. But and the storyline a bit changed based on the feature version and short version as far as how the stories went. But yeah, all in all, it's a pretty cool example of
Yeah.
of success there for that for skin. So yeah, that's
And what a catalyst that short film made. Like, what a great success story. That's so exciting.
yeah. So
And congrats on your 20 years. That's exciting
yeah,
as well.
so it's it's yeah, it's weird. It's like we have a 20-year-old kid here. What's going on? I don't
So they're
know.
going through that punk phase where they're like
Yeah.
changing their hair, and you're like, I don't even recognize you anymore.
Like, what's happening here? What's happening? But
Oh
yeah,
man.
it's pretty cool. But yeah, I guess the gray beard shows the growth. I see a lot of it there.
um, you know what? It's distinguished. We love it. I did want to make sure that we introduced our other panelists as well, Bree Castellini, who comes to us from so many different backgrounds, but most recently the Stareable Fest, and certainly her time helping other filmmakers fund for their programs through Seed and Spark. So Bree, tell me a little bit. I always call it 2 minutes about you, what it is you do, and how it is you got to do what you do. And I want to hear your icebreaker. What is your short film that became a thing that really sticks out to you?
For sure. Yeah. No, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here with y'all today. So I came into it as a filmmaker, into it being all of this. So I was getting my MFA in New York for writing and producing for television. And one of our classes had us actually produce a pilot episode of a web series. And I can never do anything that's just assigned to me. So I was like, what if I did a whole season though? Like what might that look like? And as a result of making a full web series season, well, people need to see it. So I started to do research. That's how I originally connected with Stareable, which was at the time more of a like community platform and more of a like educational service. And as I started harassing the founder, he was like, you should work for me instead of just showing up to all my happy hours and talking my ear off. And I was like, that sounds great. I would love to be paid to talk your ear off at happy hours. So I became their community director in 2017. We launched Stareable Fest, which is still going to this day in 2018. It's a super cool indie television festival that I was so honored to be a part of for several years. I'm now more of a kind of outside consultant whenever they need me or whenever they want me to moderate an event. But I'm super, super proud of that festival. It remains one of my favorite TV festivals in the country for sure. But after I stopped working at Stareable, because making films is expensive, I started crowdfunding for a lot of things and eventually connected with the people over at Seed and Spark. And they were like, hey, you're constantly harassing us at happy hours. Do you want to work for us? Seems like there might be a pattern here. And so I hopped over there. I was there. I think my final title there, because they're all startup titles, so none of these are real things, but I was their manager of creator success by the end of it. So I spent 4 years as a crowdfunding expert at Seed and Spark, educator, speaker, et cetera, in the meantime, continuing to produce my own work. And now I'm a freelancer. So I do freelance crowdfunding coaching and strategy. I do freelance indie film producing and classes, sometimes for free, sometimes for a little bit of money, sometimes with friends like HollyShorts. And yeah, so that's kind of my path of harassing people at happy hours and getting involved on sort of the ground floor of a lot of more startup-y things that are there to support indie filmmakers. And then for my geek out moment, I definitely am a TV girly. I'm a web series girly. So my example is a web series. It's called The Feels. If you have not heard of The Feels, it's an older web series, it's a couple of years old now, but it stands out in my mind as one of, I think, the most impressive pieces of indie art I have ever seen. And I have seen a lot of stuff the past couple of years. So The Feels is a 3-season web series that is ostensibly about a bisexual guy with too many feelings. But in practice, it's about a lot more than that, especially in the later seasons where they expanded their cast. They ended up winning a Daytime Emmy and a Streamy Award and a Webby Award. And it is just this really lovely anthology series, which it's very like slice of life. Each episode feels very distinct. There's not necessarily a through line, but the performances are wonderful. The creators behind it are like storytellers and like artists, and it's so beautiful, but it's also deeply funny sometimes. And so it's kind of like no matter what mood you're in, The Feels has at least 5 or 6 episodes for you that are going to knock your socks off, that are going to make you think about the world in a different way, that are going to comfort you, or that are going to give you a little giggle to get yourself a boost. So that's my shout out. I love them. Tim Manley and Najee Latiliad, incredible filmmakers, and I hope they make more someday.
I love that so much. And I feel like I have one for each of you because my default is always Whiplash because it started out as a short and became the feature. And they took, the road most traveled, which is probably just like take a scene out of the feature and make it into your short, right? But now that you mentioned the web series, I'm like, I was in film school when Issa Rae made The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, and it was so revolutionary to see a 10-minute cohesive from beginning to end as opposed to a skit that was comedy. And you can see the seed of brilliance there. And to your point, it was more about, the performances and less about how technical and advanced it was. And it's brilliant. Even now, if you go back and watch it, it's really engaging. So yeah, rock on. I love this. But we will have to hold our geek out. And honestly, since you guys are on the chat for YouTube Live anyway, like have a proper geek out with us, right? What is your favorite short that became something more that has been your model as you make your shorts? And y'all can talk amongst yourselves as we dive in, because I hear that part of the reason we're even here today is that HollyShorts is growing, and you guys have like a whole, like, is it an institute? It's a program. Tell us, Daniel, a little bit more about this HollyShorts Institute.
Yeah, so it's something we've been for years trying to get off the ground, and thanks to Bree, we've been able to put it all together now with a nice. We needed the format in a way that was very structured and really helped us, because it's my mind is always this idea, that idea, let's do this, let's do that, and it's just kind of like that doesn't work. You're throwing stuff to the wall, you're trying things, but you need to really have the nice structure of how this will operationally work and what are we trying to accomplish with it, and how do we make that happen. So for many years, it's been a topic Theo and I have been discussing, but yeah, now we're putting together where we will finally now launch our institute, and our program is, the goal is to have filmmakers help filmmakers to sort of starting point to finish to get their films made, short films made. Of course, we're in the world of shorts. We're screening shorts. We obviously we program shorts. We have short awards. We do everything short film wise, right? We're all our festivals. So that's the world we're living in, and we want to support those filmmakers and creators. So we felt one better way than to not only do our stuff for the contest and our festival screenings, but let's start having classes and do stuff to get filmmakers a chance, or those who really want to get a push forward to try to learn how to make this happen, how to do this with instructional talks, with leadership, people who can help guide this process, whether it's ourselves and myself and Theo and others that we know in the organization, but also people we can bring in to help with the class process and help guiding filmmakers to make these shorts and make their from idea to inception to creation. So something we want to start doing. So now we're launching this program. We're going to start this in the fall, and Bree said to jump in and discuss a little further from that.
Yeah, for sure. We've been kind of calling it an indie producing boot camp, because what it is overall is a 6-week class, a virtual class, where we'll have lectures on a number of subjects, everything from doing script breakdowns and budgeting your first indie to how to start applying to film festivals and what things that you should know from the behind the scenes perspective. So it's definitely designed for early stage and first time producers, especially those who have acted in a lot of indie films maybe, or have written a lot of indie films but have never made their own thing. They're always dependent on other people. This is very much in our mind an opportunity for all the creatives who have a story to tell to get the filmmaking vocabulary they need to actually do it. We're trying to make it accessible. We're trying to make it comprehensive so that no matter what level you're at, you're getting something out of it. We've got tons of templates that we'll share to make the process a little bit easier. We've all made tons of mistakes when making our films, and so ideally we'll help you with those with some of our patented materials. So right now we are open for applications. So you can find that on Film Freeway. I believe Kevin already threw that in the chat, but Kevin, if you wouldn't mind throwing that link one more time to the Film Freeway page. So if you're ready to apply, definitely apply there, and we will be in touch if we think you're going to be a good fit for our first cohort. And yeah, I think that's the big stuff. So everything's on the Film Freeway page. So if you have questions, definitely go there. But there's also a Google form that we made in case you want to ask questions more one-on-one, and we're happy to answer those after the session or even in the live stream. So if you have questions right now, I guess you can comment them as well.
Yes, now's the time. I don't know if I explained this to you guys, but I was like, this must be kismet, because it just so happens that within Stage 32, we're going to be hosting a filmmaking challenge through July. And a lot of that is just name your goal, use community to help you level up. And then, of course, you can, at the end of that time, you'll have some progress, some marked progress. So I kind of want to challenge everybody to take a moment, like, sign up for Stage 32. It's free. Find your community so that as you go towards this Holly Shorts Institute and you're leveling up your individual skills, you can actually level up your team as well and find more people. Because trust me when I tell you, this is a collaborative art, and you definitely want to, improve your part in it while you're also improving your team, right? And inviting them to the party. So yeah, I'm excited for our filmmaking challenge and how it can help you guys with your Holly Shorts Institute.
Totally.
Yay!
Oh, I realized Daniel and I both forgot like one of the biggest parts about it, which is that as sort of a graduation ceremony, everyone who produces a short film as a result of being a part of the Institute will get to be in one of Holly Short's monthly screening series at the historic TCL Chinese Theater. So you are automatically going to get a big in-person screening at an incredible theater here in Los Angeles, as long as you make the short film that you're trying to in the Institute, where it will teach you how to do that.
Yeah, it's always been a thing. We always everything is sort of my answer to a lot of this is always it's all circular and all connected. So we're always trying to bring it all together 360. Where okay, well we have an opportunity to screen content, stream films, and support filmmakers this way. But we also have panels and parties and things that we do around with the community aspect of the festival and events. So by doing this, you're going to be taking part in this with other individuals and people that you're going to collaborate with. So there's collaboration, but in the end, ultimately, we want to have a goal of like, hey, what is this going to do at the end? And now we have this opportunity to screen the film, so let's get them screened. So why not have it all be connected? Not just say, okay, you walk away, maybe you make something, maybe you don't, and then we're just done. That doesn't really put it all together in a way that's really exciting for everybody. And so for us, it makes total sense to be able to get not only assist the process of helping these filmmakers get their stuff, and writers and actors and directors and everyone getting their stuff made and getting films. You walk out of this and you actually have something completed. Now you can actually show it and get that kickstart of that process, and then invite people to see the film. And when they see the film, then maybe something comes from that. There's more collaboration and on and on and on. So it's an exciting way to bring it all together.
Yeah, man. And if you need anyone to host the Q&A at this the screening, you know who to call.
There you go. There you go.
No, I feel like you got to put yourself out there. Especially for those who are watching right now and you're not necessarily familiar with the film festival circuit or even why short films are so valuable, I would love to hear from you both about just kind of setting expectations. Why should filmmakers make short films in the first place? And then why submit to festivals? What's the value there? Bree, Daniel, who would like to go first?
Okay, I'll start and then So yeah, I mean, naturally, we're going to sit here, of course, both coming from experience of operating festivals, working festivals, starting festivals, all that stuff. So we're going to sit here and, of course, sort of toot the horn of festivals and why you should make your film, but also not just only make your shorts, but then, of course, submit to festivals. Well, first off, the short side, if you have a story to tell, you need to be able to tell it and showcase your work and showcase your talent. So if you're a filmmaker and there's an obvious reason of why you should make shorts. Of course, not only if you're a student filmmaker, you're at a certain school, and you're going to, of course, have to walk away showing that you can make some films. And then the natural fit is, of course, a short film. You're not going to first jump into making a feature film right away. That's just not as obvious or natural or easy for most people to do. The finances aspect of it, the collaboration aspect of it, how are you going to be able to do that? There's a lot of reasons why it's obviously harder to make a feature film first than a short. But not only the harder aspect of it or the problem of whether it's finances or whatever the case, it's just that the short film space is a place you can really tell your story and how you want to tell it. And it's really a way to really practice that out and sort of showcase your skills and showcase what you can do and and what your voice is and how you can show what your voice is. So we're going to always love short films, and we've been in the short film world for pretty much all my adult life. So it's been great to see the journey of the short film as a whole, like what it means to the industry, what it means to people globally with streaming and things. It's changed a lot. So we'd love to see the world of shorts become different than what it was 20 years ago. But not only that, short films again are a place where you can tell any story you want to tell. The format is open to all types of short stories. Is not just this format of beginning, middle, end the same way that a feature film has to be made because of the business aspect of it, because of the nature of a feature script story, how it should be told and written and things. Short films can be. I mean, we've seen every year we see thousands of submissions that are stories of all types, whether they're very short to longer. to just very in-depth stories, or more maybe a really great scene that just showcases a really powerful emotion and impact, and then that works really well. And from that standpoint, shorts are amazing. And then for the festival side, you get a chance to really collaborate and meet people in a way that, I mean, I don't know how else you would do it otherwise. You make these films that need to be seen. Yes, you can put them online. You can just post stuff online. You could just have YouTube channel, whatever the case. But outside of like really having a humongous following on social or online, to grow that in part is by going to festivals and having success, but not even success, just showing them for audiences that are eager to see and in that same world of like, hey, I want to go see these films and I want to see
Yeah.
who's there and then meet the creators. When you go to a festival, you always want to meet, you see a film you love, you're like, oh, I really want to meet that person. Where's the filmmaker that made
Yeah.
that? I need to meet that person. So then it's that natural progression of collaboration and talking your stuff up and your work up, and being able to meet people that are not only like-minded, but also really excited to meet you because your work resonated with them. And that feeling is obviously pretty amazing. So that is a big reason why it's not only the prize stuff or the awards or whatever, but just that collaboration aspect is really and just to grow your work with people and let them see your stuff, and you connect to that, and being at festivals when you screen is very important. So yeah.
I just have to double
Yeah.
down on that answer for a moment because I came from a theater background before I moved into film and television. And theater, you get that response immediately, right? So the kind of biofeedback, or in this case, the audience feedback, the energy is palpable. You have to wait a really long time through a lot of energy exertion before you get that feedback. And so when you said collaborate and meet people, I was like, yes, if for nothing else, to finally get the refuel of energy that you can't get any other way. So yeah, double down on that, man.
Yeah.
Bree, but I want to hear from you as well. Like, why should filmmakers make those short films, and what's the value of submitting them to festivals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, the 100 emoji to everything Daniel just said. He's completely right. I will say, from my perspective, I think of the phrase like low barrier for entry on basically every aspect of this process. So like shorts are a much lower barrier for entry for new filmmakers, for people who have bigger ambitions, for people who don't know what their ambitions are yet. A short is a really manageable thing that absolutely anyone can do for basically no money, as long as you're clever. And don't worry, we'll teach you how to do that in the HollyShorts Institute. But like it's an eminently accessible format that, to Daniel's point, you can do pretty much anything with. You can look at it as a proof of concept to just do a scene. You can try to tell a complete story. You can do something abstract or experimental. Like there's so many things you can do without like having to come from money or be a Nepo baby. And so I think on that level, it's just a really powerful format that truly anyone can engage with. It's also a lot easier to convince people to work with you if you're a first-time filmmaker. If you're making a short, if you're a first-time feature maker, it's a lot harder to like call in favors from people because they're like, that seems like a big commitment, but a short film, not that big of a commitment, probably only a couple of days. So it's a lot easier to get buy-in from your community, to prove yourself, to gain credibility, to gain experience. And then on the festival side, there's a lot more opportunities for short filmmakers in a lot of cases, especially at an affordable level for short filmmakers versus feature, web series, etc. So that makes it a lot easier to start to like play the field and look at what's out there. And I definitely think that like people misunderstand what the point of festivals are. Obviously, awards are great. Obviously, like having the laurels on your poster is important. But I think people sometimes forget that the real value of festivals, to both of your points, is the in-person aspect. If you can't attend a film festival, why are you submitting to it? Because yeah, maybe somebody will see your film, but you don't get to feel the energy in that room. You don't get to feel the palpable excitement, the laughter, to hearing your joke said out loud and people respond. And you're also cutting yourself out of the opportunity to meet other filmmakers. Like I have met so many wonderful fellow creatives just through like attending film festivals and stuff like that, who I've gone on to make additional work with, who I've gone on to partner with on other things. Like the first time I spoke at a HollyShorts festival was like 2018, I think, maybe 2019. And we're still working together and sharing stuff. So I think that a short film is a really accessible format to start having a thing to talk about when you enter the world of filmmaker communities. And I think you do yourself a disservice if you're trying to skip the line there, because there is a lot that you're going to learn about yourself as a leader, of yourself as an artist, by making a bunch of short films and just throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying things out, seeing what works, what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. And a
Also, what
talking
friends
point.
that you should continue to work with, and what friends you should
Yeah, the
appreciate from
collaboration.
afar
Collaboration
and
is a
not.
big part of it. Yeah, it's we've seen time and time again that a number of films or filmmakers that have maybe the festival multiple times in different years, they're working with a lot of the same people. They have a great collaboration going where they just really click and everyone clicks well, and you're really making great films together. So it's more than many or any other art. It's as collaborative as anything. You can't really do anything strictly by yourself. Obviously, you can if hey, you can shoot something and be the DP and cameraman and direct something. You still need at least one actor to do something. So at the very least, you need to collaborate with someone. So there is collaboration that's inherently always involved with film. So you need to at some level be some social and meet people. That just has to
And
happen. So yeah, it's what
Yeah.
better place than do that at film festivals.
well,
Yeah,
learning
man.
how to collaborate, I think, is an underrated part of this, because I think a lot of people in their minds have an idea of what it looks like to work on a film set or work with certain friends. But until you've actually done it, it's really hard to say if this is going to be a fruitful collaboration. There's tons of people I've worked with who I will work with until I die. There are tons of people that I work with who I respect so much and who I cannot ever work with again because simply we don't gel. And I'm glad we worked out those not gelling feelings on smaller projects rather than
Yes.
like a big, behemoth feature, because you just never know how people are going to react. Some of these people I'm talking about are my best friends and they know this. We have had conversations like, if we want to keep being friends, we can't work together again. And I'm so glad I know that now from making short form content before we try to like go into business together and start an LLC. And so I think it's a mistake to try and skip the line, even if you think you know everything conceptually, until you have the practical experience of being in the weeds, of having a location fall out in the last possible minute, of like fighting with your roommates about locations or whatever. Like until you've had those hands-on experiences, you're not ready for what comes next. And you shouldn't be, because we all have to learn by doing, and doing a short is the best way to learn all of this stuff.
Yes. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I have definitely done a filmmaking challenge specifically to test out a crew before we go on a bigger project because I'm not risking it with more money.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think that is phenomenal point that it's not just about testing out the crew, but it's also kind of testing out the theory or testing out the practice, or the lower barrier to entry. And for those of you who are in the chat right now, if you also have those experiences where you're like, this is what I learned on my short film, feel free to share. We love hearing those stories. And I think the big takeaway of sharing it in a film festival is also you have a talking point, right? If you talk to someone who just says, much like an interview or even a date, like if you just have their testimonial, you don't actually know what they're capable of. However, if you know what they're capable of because it's just showing on screen, you have a talking point, you have a way to relate to them and have that conversation. So yeah, all sorts of value at a film festival. But I would love to know from you guys because, film festivals evolve and what people submit certainly evolves. And in the spirit of a positivity sandwich, I would love to hear, what are the encouraging trends that you have seen with film festival submissions of late? Let's switch things up. Bree, do you want to take this leg?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the most encouraging things that I've experienced in the film festival realm is that film festivals are starting to be a little bit more open to projects that might not be perfectly polished and ready to like go on TV, but have one or two elements of the craft that are just so impressive they can't put it down. Because I think and this is one of those things that people get wrong about festivals, is they kind of just submit to everything and assume that it's like a merit-based system. And I have a feeling we'll talk about this in more detail later, but like oftentimes it just comes down to like what fits in with the full program that we're putting together. It's like you might have a brilliant thing, but if it doesn't make sense in context of everything else that's been submitted, it's tough to program. But I have seen a lot more festivals taking risks with filmmakers who are doing new and interesting and weird things that showcase a whole different side of the craft that we all know and love. And that's really encouraging to me, because I think some of the best stuff comes out of the weirdest people, and sometimes they don't have the budget to make something beautifully polished, but you can tell there's something there. And the point of what all of us do is to uplift artists where they're at rather than punishing them for not already being 5 steps ahead. And I have been saying that a lot more in the film festival circuits, and I'm excited to see what new weird stuff comes next.
Yeah, man. Go for it, Daniel.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I think a big part of it is that, for us, we're looking to always program. We have a longer fest of 10 days, and for us, for Shorts Festival, right? There's Palm Springs and others that are like us, that have a lot of films. I don't know where we're at in the hierarchy of like how many films we show, but generally we have around 400 films programmed for 10 days. That's kind of the benchmark ballpark number, but that's not always exact. But in context of what's out there for many fests and stuff, that's a larger number. I don't know if it's like the largest or what. I know Claremont in France, they show a lot as well, and they have a lot of program, but they also do like the market and stuff. There's different numbers and things. That's all to say there's a lot of films. So with that, we like to try to program a wide range of films and cover lots of genre and theme across the board. So for those that are more films that are more, as Bree mentioned, like a little more outrageous and out there, and quirky, and sort of the B cinema and type stuff, then we'll program at midnights. We have the midnight program for that, the midnight madness for that could fit that kind of vein, and things that fit that mold, and so on and so forth. So we're trying to cover a lot of ground of having a lot of great films covered from a lot of different areas, and that's our hope. And so we do want to program a lot of films. We have a lot of great submissions coming our way, so we want to try to program as much as possible. That said, of
Yeah,
course,
man.
we can't program everything, and we have to keep a certain standard there that we want to uphold. That's, they've gone this many years, all the qualifying awards and all the stuff so there is a standard there of just really showing great films that people would want to come to the festival and say, wow, I saw this and this, and I was inspired by this. This film was amazing. So that's always, something we're trying to, uphold there. But within that, we still can show a lot of films from a lot of these great submissions. And then you mentioned theme and things. I think now we're just more than maybe before, or maybe ever, seeing a lot of films and filmmakers take on a lot of challenging subjects. Meaning that they really want to take on stuff that's not only personal to them, but stuff that also is something that's, whether it's just thing that's going on in the world, political stuff, whatever the case, but just the subjects that are not as always comfortable for those to talk about, and those that even share for themselves to share. It's very personal to be able to make that kind of work of art that way, and showcase something that's really important to the filmmaker, that's really very personal and hard to share. They're sharing those stories, and we're seeing that more and more, where it's now, for us, watching programming is a lot of, it's at times tough. There's been some really hard, because you're just watching from a blank slate, like not knowing where you're going to turn on, and emotionally
Yeah.
it takes you on a bit of a ride. Sometimes it's hard. You really
Oh,
relate with
no.
these filmmakers. It's really intense. So it's just part of the process and the work, and we're grateful to be able to see these films. But we're seeing more and more. I feel maybe that's just also because we're seeing more submissions. We have more submissions than we've had in the past, and all that kind of stuff. But I'd have to say that I think it's part of the theme, is sort of that that the short filmmakers globally, and also whether student filmmakers or whatever, the challenge, they're up for the challenge of making really tough films and tough subjects, and really pushing to tell those important stories. And I think, maybe more than ever.
Oh, that is really encouraging to hear. I mean, also heartbreaking, because I think we all know
Also,
as
maybe also
fans
part
first.
because they
And
can do it, right? You can do it. It's not, I have to
yes,
go out and raise, 10 million, and I got to, it's not, so there's not some investor focused where it's like, to not to always knock features in that way, but you understand the feature business is a different animal
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Whereas in the shorts world, it's like, okay, I'm going to make this because I want to make this, whether it's their money or someone, or school money, or a grant, maybe a European grant from a country and things like that. It's okay. This is a great piece of art that's going to be made. We're going to make it, and we're going to give you this 50 grand to make this or whatever, and then go make it. And the support there, it's different. So there is
yeah.
so you're seeing that there's just a different type of story that can be told there. This is, it's sort of, the handcuffs are sort of off in that way, and that's why I appreciate it about shorts.
And I love that heart is kind of at the center of what's working well. Um,
Yeah.
all right. So the moment we've all been waiting for, and you really already started to touch on it, Daniel. So I'll let you go with it. In contrast, what are you seeing that are causing short films to be rejected from film festivals?
Yeah, so it's obviously a lot of things. It's a big topic, a big question. I mean, first, let me go back to I guess that number. Say we show all these 400 films, and I say 400 in the ballpark number. Last year was 415, 1 year is 397, whatever. It's different. Point is 10 days of 5 programs a day, lots of films. We screen once each time, so every film screen once. So we have different programs for themes, and story genres and styles and things. But last year we had 5,900 or so submissions this year, 6,100 submissions. So the math is what the math is. There's only room for whatever that percentage is. I think that comes out to, I don't know, 4 to 5% or so of the films are frankly going to make the festival. So now we do have a lot of room for monthly screenings and stuff throughout the year. And there's a monthly screening there. So Brendan just commented there. Screened it in May, in May 2023 monthly screening. So we screen films of the monthlies that don't make the festival that we like a lot, because we have a number of all the judging process, and we score 1 through 10. There'll be a number of films that don't make the festival that frankly we love. They're just, we look back, we're like, we really just ran out of room with certain programs, or there were other films that just sort of bumped up over them in scoring and what we needed, and different factors, that we have hundreds and hundreds of films that we love that, and honestly, I feel like we could program another festival in entirety with a whole other 400 films that are amazing that could also screen. It's just that there's that many of the 6,000 that are that strong. Now, there are a number of them that don't score as well, or have a lot of technical flaws and things that just don't work, or the acting isn't quite there. There's just a number of issues that, when you're looking at it from the competitive standpoint of only this many programs a slot, you're really trying to narrow down what's the best of the best, and you feel you really want to screen for that voice, the voice of the filmmaker that you really feel strong about, but also just from the technical standpoint, does it match up to the other films? There's going to be a number of films that don't meet that criteria and just can't make it. But yeah, the monthly screenings do help us with an opportunity to still be able to screen throughout the year other films. We say, hey, I really liked it, but we couldn't program it, so we're going to now be able to show it maybe in an October screening or something, and things like that. But in the technical, from like a real technical standpoint of things to, I guess, look out for, or not only the numbers aspect of it, because that's just built in for our festival. There's other festivals that are probably pretty similar. If you look at a lot of bigger festivals, they're going to have similar math. Tribeca, Sundance numbers are insane. So that doesn't even make it a whole other thing. That's even,
Sundance is also largely by invitation.
Yeah, it's a whole other mess. Like, so they 12,000 submissions of shorts, and they program like 50 or something. And of those, how many of those are even selected because they're already maybe inherently? So I don't know. They're only picking 30 or something. I don't know. It's pretty bad. So like, that's a whole other math of like, so there you're not going to really, I know like I mentioned earlier in the call, Skin didn't make Sundance. So we got the premiere. We were lucky to premiere Skin because they rejected it. So we got the premiere based on the fact that they got rejected there, and the film went on to do all these things and win an Oscar. So that shows you the level of sort of how competitive that can be. That's inherently just an almost impossibility of getting in some degree. So there are festivals that range.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but my brain was starting to do the math. Does that mean like a 5-minute short is easier to try and accept than a 10-minute short, or is like a 10-minute short easier to do like a 30-minute short? Like,
no,
are you recommending that they be shorter?
No, I think the length thing, when you get into that topic, it's more of the longer side. I mean, because we accept films 40 minutes or less. For us, it's 40 minutes or under, and that's sort of in line with the Academy stuff and for our short documentary category, which qualifies. Many of the docs, of course, are closer to that range. 39 minutes, 35 minutes. A lot of docs are longer, often, than a lot of the narrative films for different reasons, right? Of shooting a doc versus shooting a live action film, and the planning and the locations and all the things. But how I usually describe it or say is that there's only so many films we can program at that length versus a shorter short. So if a film's 40 minutes, we only can show so many films at 40 minutes versus films that are, say, the 10-minute range. And most shorts on average are around 13 minutes or so of the overall submission pool. So a film that's in 20 minutes or so is not as much of a problem time-wise. We don't really look at time as an issue. If you get to above 30 minutes, then it becomes a bit more of like, okay, how many films can we show at this length amongst the other ones? Because there's going to be at least maybe 400 or so films submitted at that length of the 6,000. Give or take. So that's a lot of. Now you only can program so many in that ballpark. So you're I guess what I'm getting at is, the longer the film in that length, when you get to that long, your sort of percentage pool of how many we can program and play gets smaller. So there's only so many of those films we can program reasonably without bumping out a bunch of movies. If we program the whole festival with 40-minute films or 30-minute films, we'd have 150, 200 less films. So yes, there's going to be, and it's not only about the time, it's just about the films we love. You love a film, you love a film. You don't want to say, okay, I have to reject 5 of these movies and I love them because I have to put this one film in that's this long over the other one. So there is some of that comes into play. So it does matter, but as far as 5 to 10 minutes, that doesn't really make a difference there. When you're talking the shorter length, doesn't really change much at all. And sometimes it could be worse. There's some films that are 4 to 5 minutes that we feel like just didn't earn that time, or you'd want more from the story. If that, I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. Like didn't
Yeah.
earn it the right
No.
way. Just too short. They're almost like it's just too short. You get a little tease of something, and the movie's over. You're like, oh, that was exciting. I like where that was going, and then it's just over. So you're kind of feeling like I wanted more from that. Yeah, we can just we could throw it in because it's 4 minutes or something. You can just it's easy to throw in a movie if you have a 2-hour program. You can find room with 4 minutes, right? In theory, but yes, does the film work for what it was supposed to be? And that's, I guess, back to the time thing. The most important thing is does the film work, and is the time that's spent on the film, whether it's 40 or 4, does it work for what it is? If it works? We've had films that have won the festival at 35 minutes that have won the Grand Prix of the festival and won best short. So it doesn't matter that they were long. The films were fantastic and amazing, and it earned its time, and everything was needed to tell that story. So the film worked, and it was programmed and went all the way in these kind of things. So it's not like, oh, we're going to look at it from the time thing and just look at the time and say, okay, we'll reject it based on the time. You have to watch the film first, of course, not just inherently judge a film based on its time. But yeah, there is, but that all said, it does play, it is factor into the process of programming, because as we're getting closer and closer to the end, we only have so much time in the blocks. We can't program over 2 hours. So we have to say, okay, if a movie's 40 minutes, we like it, but then we're looking around, there's just no time to put it. We might run into a wall as well. So there is that challenge for that part of it too.
Yeah.
Well, and
Absolutely.
I think something that a lot of filmmakers forget if they haven't been on the other side of it. And it was certainly instructive to me because obviously I started as a filmmaker, got into festivals on the other side, and then kind of bounced back and forth since then. I think a lot of filmmakers forget that a film festival is an event. It is not an award ceremony. There are those, like their contests exist, but film festivals are not exclusively merit-based opportunities because, to Daniel's point, there's a lot of amazing things that end up getting rejected, not because they're bad, not because they're necessarily better or worse than anything that is in the festival, but because for whatever reason, they just don't fit. Sometimes it's a time issue, and it's like you have exclusively films over 10 minutes and the one little 4-minute short film, you're like, I love this, but it's the only one of this length, and it would feel weird next to other stuff. It would make your 4-minute film look worse because of where we're programming it, because there's nothing that it matches with. It's not because the 4-minute film is bad, it's because it doesn't match anything else. And we're putting on an event, like HollyShorts has like 10 days of programming. Like there's a lot of stuff that you're putting together. And if it doesn't feel right in context, it's just not going to work out. Like I remember there was this really wonderful animation project that got submitted to a festival I was helping with one year, but there was no other animated projects that were submitted. And like we had an animation category on Film Freeway, but only one person submitted, and it was really great, but it was the only one. And because of the nature of that format, it would have looked really strange next to any of the like live action shorts that we were programming. And so we ended up having to reject it because we have to look at it in context. We have to look at it in an event. Does this make sense in a screening block? We can't program it on its own. That's not a good use of anyone's time or space. So unfortunately, it doesn't work out. So as far as like advice for filmmakers goes, a big thing that will help you save you like heartache and save you money is to do your research. Don't just submit to places because they're open for submissions. Look at what have they programmed before? What are the films that have made it through the last couple of years? You can start to get a sense of not only what kinds of films tend to screen at this program, like do they like horror? Do they not really program horror? Are they big comedy people? Are they more of a documentary festival, even if it's not officially a documentary festival? Like what can you learn about what tends to get submitted to this festival to help you decide, is this the right festival for me to submit to? And alternatively, you'll also learn a lot about the programming team. Because we, can say that we are, we just love films until the cows come home, but we all have a perspective. And when you have the same group of programmers over and over again, you're going to tend to program things that are to your particular taste or whatever. And so people should pay attention to that as well. If it's a consistent programming team, is this team programming stuff that you are making? Yes or no? It's, again, not about a merit thing. I'm not saying, are you good enough for this festival? Although I have something to say about the technical side of things. But it's about, does this festival feel right for the thing that I'm making? Are they picking up what I'm putting down? If not, don't waste your money on that. Don't do that to yourself. Save your money and find a festival that's going to be a home for your film, not just another set of laurels on your poster that no one's ever going to ask about. Because only like a handful of the laurels that you're going to end up getting are going to actually be meaningful to anyone and communicate anything beyond, oh, look, they submitted to a bunch of festivals. So don't just waste your money. Go for festivals that are genuinely in line with the kind of work that you're making at the level at which you're making it. Now, all that being said, obviously there are technical concerns that you need to be like hitting. Like if we can't hear the audio in your film, then it doesn't matter how brilliant the performances are or the script is, we can't hear it. So that's obviously going to get rejected. But hey, quick plug for the HollyShorts Institute. There is an entire workshop where we're going to be talking about the concept of base competency, is what I call it in my classes, which is the base level of quality on a technical level that you have to hit before people will start taking you seriously. It's not about TV level, because again, it doesn't have to be TV level in order to be a high quality short film, but there are elements of the technical aspect of things that don't necessarily require more money, but require more thoughtfulness and preparation to ensure that you're hitting at least the base level of competency that you need in order to be taken seriously at the film festival level. So that is something we'll be covering. And if that's something you're concerned about, definitely something I was concerned about. I'm a writer. I was not a technical person at all. So that will be discussed in the HollyShorts Institute. Apply now.
It's a very important point. There is a baseline that has to be met. Technically, it just has to be. We've had stuff in the past. We've seen many films over the years that were like really enjoyed a performance or some great writing. You're like, they're on to something. This has got something I like here, but there's too many technical issues. It's not something really programmable. Then
right, it just wouldn't look good next to everything.
Hollywood audience,
it would look worse by comparison.
Yeah, just so then it becomes. That's something that, then we say, okay, maybe if there's enough there, or we can say, okay, well, maybe we'll screen it separately at a competition at a monthly. If it's still too many issues, then no, we can't screen that at all. Then, and then because we're at the Chinese theater, this is the sound quality, the screen quality. We're talking a certain level of professionalism there, a certain level of Hollywood players that are going to be attending, and people that really are looking for, okay, I'm looking for stuff here, whether it's films to invest in, filmmakers to work with, just all that kind of stuff. Actors, we've had actors that are signed off screening, so they're not even knowing they're going to go, and then they screen their film. I'm in this film, so I'm here at the festival, and then there's an agent there that loved their work and signed them. These things have happened over the years, all these great success stories, but that's based on that quality that's there. If it's not there, we have that responsibility of saying, okay, we have to balance that out. So so technically, if there's not a baseline or a certain level met, that becomes problematic. And we have seen some films over the years we have had let slide for things because we love it so much, because we just really saw something in the filmmaker there, or there was just some great performances and writing in the story. We're like, this is just hitting it, especially in the comedy side. That's where you see it more. Where if it's funny and it's great, it's funny, it's working. And if it's not, it's not. And comedy is the hardest thing to do. So if it's working and you love it, you're like, this is awesome, we love it, then we're like, this is just fantastic and hilarious. We have to show this. So there is sometimes that I guess there is a different level of threshold. Of course, if you're making a sci-fi film that inherently needs some VFX and things, and if those aren't up to par or not working or not done well, there is a different, I guess, level of comedy versus sci-fi in a technical aspect, right? There is. So, and not to say there's unfairness.
And drama too.
And drama too. Yeah, there's just inherently there's a difference. It matters. It does matter. If you're trying to make something and pull off and have practical effects or VFX and have a creature or monster in a horror film and it looks ridiculous or awful, which happens many times, and that's going to take the audience completely out of it. And you're like, well, wait, now the moment is here and it doesn't work. And that's, I guess, I'm not sure if we may or not talk about it later, but there is often, as we're in the heavy throes of programming now, watching so many films over the last few months, we're looking for moments. We're always looking for moments, the moments that just wow us. That just really get you, like, you're watching films, you're like, okay, I'm paying attention. This is okay. This is well made. I can see that there's technical stuff that's working, and the film is made well, and actors are fine. I'm seeing where the story's going. I understand where they're trying to go with this. And then something hits or something happens where there's a twist in the story or something, or just a moment that is big, whether it is a genre film and there's something where it's a reveal of a creature or a reveal of the story twist of the ghost in the house or whatever. I'm just making a random example, but that really, something that really works and really jumps out at you. Now you're like, wow, wait a minute. Now I'm really into this. Now this is something that's exciting. So we're always looking for those moments that are really get you excited. As a programmer, you're like, okay, I only can pick so many, so I can't just program everything, because I can't. So we have to be selective and really know what is it we're going to pick and why and what we love. So there's always moments in films that really jump out that you're just like, wow, this is exciting. This works for us. Or just something that really just takes us and just really makes us just really dive into the film and story, and we love it. And then then in turn you fall in love with the movie, and then you're like, okay, this is just working for me, and then you love it, and then yeah.
That's such a good point. And I have to just highlight, because this time last year, when you guys had HollyShorts, for the first time ever, I got a chance to do a filmmaker Q&A for the Stage 32 block. And of course, I am not a horror fan. Y'all forgive me. It's not my normal thing. I can watch it. I don't pursue it. There was a phenomenal short film, and I will never forget the creep moment, right? Where the protagonist is in the foreground, and in the background down this long, kind of jagged hallway is let's call it the creature is kind of flashing forward. But the image is so ingrained in my brain that even if I don't remember the rest of the short, I will always remember that moment. So I love that, kind of win the battle, even if you don't win the war. Like, even if the rest of your short isn't cohesive, when you have that one truly stellar cinematic moment, it lives rent free in your audience's brain. So I love that that's part of what you're looking for.
Yeah, the payoff, right? Like, and some films are setting up to that payoff. Some films are all about the payoff. There's sort of a punchline at the end of the joke if it's a comedy or something. It's a 7-minute film, or there's that. It's a scene that's it's going to one place. Where's it going? Is it trying to dangle the carrot in front of you? Like, okay, it's taking you somewhere. What's the twist? What's going to happen? What is this really about? And if that moment comes and it's just like, oh, that didn't, and it's over and it didn't work, and you're like, oh, it's just over, and the film feels. Now we're all in the room just like, oh, damn, no, this doesn't work. Now we're all like, shit, kind of. And if it's the opposite, then it's like you're like, this is like, wow. Then it's an automatic, like, that's everything's there for. I love it. This is wow. It totally works. And then so that back to that runtime thing, it can work in your favor that way. If you do have a film that is a story that plays that way, it's more of a has that note of that moment. And it's all about the payoff. And if the payoff works and it just like a home run, it hits, then you're gonna have a lot of festivals saying yes and saying, okay, this is great. The runtime is good, and the film works, and for what it's supposed to be, the payoff's there. Then you get excited, and this can program this way, that way, and one last point on that, back to the programming side, we're always looking at films that do cover a lot of areas. Meaning we can we're very programmable. Meaning, like, okay, it fits different areas. So it could be romance, it could be this, it could be that. Like, it just, and it's, again, romance, I guess, is a bad example. It's more the storyline, but like, what is the not only the film about?
It could be queer, it could be sci-fi, it could be
just if it mixes a lot of genres that way, or has a lot of areas it covers, it just helps us a ton to say, okay, now we can program this in a lot of places. So if for any reason we have to move a film, or we just feel like, what, it could be here, but then, we already programmed enough of these, and that's more of the end of the line, when we're getting into, like, we're in July last days, and we're like looking, but before we have more time, more room, but we're getting tighter. We can say, okay, well, this can go here, but this could also go here. So it's flexible. So I can program a lot of places. So I have an easier time saying, yes, select it, let's put it in, let's find a place for it, because we love it. And it also, it fits it checks a lot of boxes. It can be really programmable that way. So it helps on our side. It helps us a lot for how we program for a lot of the festivals too. It just helps to have, when films are, sort of can assist us that way. And it's not, of course, the intention. You're not going to make a film saying, hey, how am I going to get programmed? But but there is something to consider as far as whether it's just casting choices or locations or things about the story, or it just helps a lot. So
there's a really great question that came through. Make specific films. Yes. There was a really great question that came through, and I wanted to ask it, since you were kind of talking about putting weight on a thing, and specifically you can put more weight on it if it has that variety of genre. So, and I personally want to know the answer to this, because when you submit your film, you have the opportunity to include a cover letter. What kind of weight does that carry? Do you, are there versions that you love or hate? Like, how does cover letters play into the submissions for you guys?
Yeah. You want me to start? You go
for
first,
me, cover letters tend to be like a final aspect to look at. Like, my first priority when I'm judging, when I'm programming, is watching the film. Like, the film needs to speak for itself. I think sometimes people think that, like, it's a companion piece, but, like, I'm not going to read your cover letter at the festival. So if that is necessary context in order to understand, like, why the film is good, then you kind of already lost. But when I do look at cover letters, it's when we're in the final process of, like, narrowing down what films we're going to include. And it comes down to, like, well, what is the goal of the film festival? Like, is it just to showcase great art? Are we trying to get people like meetings? And because at Steerable Fest, a big part of their festival is they try to get every official selection at least one meeting, be it with a production company, with agents, with just like partners of theirs that they're including in the festival process. So sometimes we'll use a cover letter at that point to narrow down, like, do we think that this person is going to embarrass us in a meeting or not? Like, are they ready to have a professional conversation, or are they still maybe a little bit earlier in the phase and are just sort of trying things out? It's like, that's great. But if the goal of the festival, if the programming mandate that we're putting together is, are these people ready to have big career conversations? If your cover letter does not imply that, that's going to be hard. So I would say, in terms of like advice for writing cover letters, we probably won't look at it first, but if you're going to include a cover letter, make sure that you're being specific about what the festival is for. Like, if a festival is not giving you meetings, but is more of a generalist sort of community opportunity and networking things, like, don't mention that kind of stuff. Like, if a festival is really like a real horror festival, a very genre heavy festival, the cover letter should reflect that. It should emphasize that, like, I am a lover of this genre, whatever. It's like, it's in the same way that when you're applying for a job, a cover letter should be specific. When you're applying for a film festival, the cover letter should be specific. We should understand why you're writing it to us, and it should reflect what our festival is looking for. And if you don't know what the programming mandate of a festival is, you're not looking hard enough. Festivals do not hide that information. Festivals are very upfront with what they're trying to do, what they've done in the past, what their priorities are, and at the very least, reach out to them and say, hey, what kinds of things are you looking for, so that you can incorporate that. But don't just copy and paste the same paragraph to every festival you submit to, because not every festival is built the same. Not every festival cares about the same things or is able to support you in the same ways. So be specific. Make specific films, write specific cover letters. But it's rarely a make or break thing, unless it is like a full tiebreaker at the very end of the process. So don't overthink it. But if you're going to write one, be thoughtful about it.
I love that.
Yeah. I would second that, just to say that, yeah, I do read every cover letter. I like seeing cover letters. I like seeing it because, again, it's not just a film, it's an application. So in the years past, we always think, I talked openly about this, it's about the film, and that's true. And it is in the end, the film's, the greatest cover letter, whether it's it's very nice and very sweet. This is the best. HollyShorts is great and the best. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. That's cool. But if the film is not good, it's not going to change anything. So unfortunately, frankly, it's not going to matter, right? But at least I'll know the intention of someone who's giving there's someone's passion, or you could feel that there. You want to read that. I don't like seeing that application that has nothing. It's a film and there's nothing else. I barely even get the credits. I don't have any context. I don't have anything there. And the movie's good, even if it's great. I'm like, wow, this blew me away. But all right, now I'm like, who is this person? What is this? I don't have any. It's a full application. So whether it's a PDF,
did a ghost submit this film?
Yeah, like if it's too generic, where some people just throw nothing, and it's very bland, and there's like nothing there at all. It's just like, okay, I don't even know anything about where this film's from or anything. That's not helpful.
Or they restate the information, like they basically just send you the synopsis again, and it's like that. There's another section for that. I already know this information. What is this adding to it?
Yeah, it feels.
It should be additive.
Yeah, it feels a little lazy. So it's not. No, again, it's not going to be like the make or break thing at all. But it's not helping the cause. It's nice to have a full application of everything with good details about the film, how it's made, who made it, what's your intention with the film. And in the cover letter, it's great if it has great detail and stuff and talks about the festival, maybe about programming. That's nice and shows you're paying a lot of attention, but it's also not required. It's more just an understanding of where you're coming from with the movie, why you made the movie. All that stuff is welcome. And it's always, to me, helpful. I think it's good. And it's always be something that's taken into all consideration. So it never hurts. I always encourage everyone should write a cover letter. That said, not every festival requires. I know some festivals may not even want any of that stuff, but for us, that's just speaking for our time. I think that's important to do.
Well, it feels like it's kind of like a highlight reel from your press kit, right? Because your press kit's going to have all that information, but it's so long in comparison. But you could do like a little snapshot of that for the cover letter, and that way they're still getting some of it without having to go through the entire press kit.
Yeah. Well, and presumably you've already like worked up those materials somewhere, so it's like you should have some content to include in a cover letter. And there's going to be information that's relevant to all of them, but there should be a personalized element to it that is clear that this is not just the same paragraph you post to everyone, because then what are we adding? What are we learning? I don't feel special now, so why should I make you feel special?
We do get a lot of those sometimes letters that, just it's written to Sundance, but it's to us. Get those pretty
Whom
often.
it may concern.
Yeah, it's literally it's Sundance stuff, and I'm like, oh, there's the letters here, but it's
I've
not
seen
not
that
for me.
before too.
It's not for
But
me,
in
but okay.
in the title of the film screening, like the file name is like Sundance application, and like they'll mention it a couple of times, and it's like, guys,
it's I get
rename
it.
your
It's not-
files.
yeah, I'm not gonna. It's not gonna be like, oh, Aaron, this is bad. I'm not gonna. Now we can't have this film.
But it's a bad look,
It's not-
and
yeah, it's
if
not the
it comes down to you and someone who's clearly paying attention, I'm probably going to take the thoughtful person.
Yeah,
So
so maybe best to make sure those things are cleaned up a bit, but that's like anything, right? But that's
Yeah.
So,
Y'all didn't know, those of you who are listening, that we were going to have some real practical advice, but take note. That was a golden note.
proofread your submission. There should not be another festival's name on your submission materials to our festivals.
Oh man. I do. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got after doing a filmmaking challenge and before submitting, it was like a 48-hour film festival or something. And I remember the leader of it mentioned, usually the judges like to see a complete package. So if you don't have end titles that look professional and people can read their names, they're not, you're going to have a reduced chance of actually being picked. I was like, okay, mental note, leveling up my title game. And I feel like that leads into the next question that we got from the audience, which is such a good question, because clearly we're there to meet people, but also to make sure that those who are in your project get credit and get recognition. So what advice do you guys have about leveraging film festivals to get managers or representation?
Yeah. I'll start to, basically, well, and one is, of course, if there are panels with managers, agents, and stuff like that at the festival. Again, part of why it's important to be there is that it's for that alone, because we can't do a lot of virtual stuff of connecting people as much. We try to do what we can when we can. If someone's not attending, hey, I'm in, I don't know, Norway and I can't make it, and okay, we'll try to connect via the process of the jury and stuff. So there's going to be big names in the jury. We're trying to put those big names and connect them with the films. So they can watch the films. They might love a film. They're judging. So we're trying to always bring in that connectivity of the industry, right? So that's nice. We'll try to connect representation to where, oh, hey, I'm looking for certain kind of films and filmmakers. Well, we'll try to share the film. That all said, it's best to be there because those managers and agents are going to be there. So they're at the screenings, they're at the festival. Of course, 10 days, maybe they don't see your film, maybe they do, but they're at a lot of screenings. They're at, of course, all the big stuff and there's things at the festival throughout and doing the panels. So we're going to have panels with agents and managers. So you have a chance to directly meet someone there or hear them speak and then go talk to them directly and then share, hey, my film's playing this time. You come check it out or whatever, or here's my link, here's my email, whatever, you can connect directly. So being at the festival and representing your film, because not only are you there just to attend, when you're there with the film, it's saying something about you. It's saying, hey, my film made it here. So
the automatic icebreaker.
So there's an icebreaker there. The agent or manager that's at the festival is fully understanding of what that means because they're of course aware of whatever festival. In case, of course, for HollyShorts, they're aware of us. They're aware of the festival. They know there's a certain level of filmmaker acumen and talent that's going to be screened and how hard it is to get in, all these kind of things. So if you're there with a film and that already sort of breaks that ice. So it's important to be there representing your movie. That's why that's very, very important. And the opportunity is there with those panels and things and seeing what's available at the festival and also talking with the festival about what opportunities are there. Because not every festival has panels the same way or stuff, but maybe some festivals do things where they do one-on-one meetups or they do industry stuff where they pick people to do that, or there's all types of stuff, but it has to be a communication process. No one's gonna do anything for you just because, oh, your film's good. Okay, well, a lot of films are good and great and amazing and all this stuff. There's so many films that are great and wonderful. And you have to take that initiative of really being a bit more aggressive on, okay, being forthcoming about what's going on with your film, who you want to meet, talking to the filmmakers, talking to the festival about who you want to meet, what's your intention when you're there, asking questions about what is offered here when I come, what do I do, what can I do, there are meetups, is there this, is just knowing more about what's going on instead of just being really totally quiet and not really talking to anyone about anything or not reaching out. Don't be shy about that. Reach out, ask questions, email. It's not a bother. It's never a bother. It's what most festivals are trying to do. The intention is we're trying to do something for others. There's an element of give back. So we got to take that opportunity to jump in and say something though, and be vocal, not just like not saying
hope
anything.
It works out for the best.
Yeah. That's
now,
not
along those lines.
Yeah.
Just because you said email is like, oh, now tell me, because I know a lot of the submissions, like when you look at like a festival on Film Freeway and it'll say like contact here, like, would you recommend following up your submission with an email? Like, is that a worthwhile, to get the ball rolling.
I would say yes. I say yes. Even though yes, don't be over the top with it and too aggressive.
Yeah.
We've seen in the past there's been problems with that. Like some filmmakers really just don't
Mm.
know the boundary of when to stop. Whether it's not only the process of being rejected and stuff, and that's understandable, people get upset or whatever,
Yeah.
or don't feel. But then there's been people really take it really too far. And won't get into the negative
Mm.
side of those things, but but before even that, just about hey, I applied and here's my stuff. At the very least, an email or two is always welcome and good. And it may get returned, may not. There's a lot of we're busy as getting thrown all types of stuff our way, but it's never a not welcome thing to see someone that takes initiative, that cares about their work and wants to share and talk about what they applied, what they did, what their film's about, and all the stuff. It's just another thing that we can see. It doesn't hurt. Sometimes it helps.
Yeah.
You've seen emails where we're like, oh, let me make sure I check this out again. Let me see. Oh, look, one of our reviewers, they really love this. Okay, let's see why. And maybe that email wasn't sent. Maybe we don't see it again the same way, or you give it that third viewing after the two view. So maybe that might be the difference. It can be, to be honest. So
that's
it's
awesome.
important to still share, and she'll try to at least do that email. I think it's good to do.
Absolutely.
But not everyone likes that. That's maybe my feeling on it, but maybe.
I mean, yeah, definitely temperature check. I would say for a lot of the festivals I've worked with, an email is only like gonna probably get returned if there's a specific question in it, or if it's after like acceptances have gone out, and so it's like you're accepted into the festival, and so now you're like, hi, I wanted to introduce myself. Thank you so much for blah blah blah. I'm excited to do it. Like, what should I know about the festival to like make the most of my time there? Like, that's gonna probably get a higher response rate just because like we've narrowed it down. We have you have asked us for an action that we can take. But definitely I want to highlight something that Daniel said earlier, which is that like not every festival is going to be good for leveraging to get managers and reps, either because the festival just doesn't have that kind of audience. Like maybe they're in one of the flyover states, and so there just like aren't as many managers and agents able to attend. So attending there is not quite as useful, or it's just a matter of like, it's a smaller festival. It's a newer festival. That doesn't mean that the festival can't be a valuable like thing for you to attend and to participate in, but it does mean that maybe manager isn't the next step. Maybe that's just the first step along your filmmaker's journey. Something else that I would say though is that in addition to obviously making sure to attend as many like panels and networking events as are programmed, because that's what they're there for, so that you can meet people, don't underestimate the value of meeting other filmmakers, because most of the people that I know with managers and agents have gotten an introduction to them from fellow creators. Or you're in a screening block with someone and you're like, hey, I loved your film, let's become friends. And if that person has a rep, oftentimes they'll be like, oh, hey, I met someone at a film festival who makes similar stuff to me, let me introduce you to my agent. So don't underestimate the value of meeting people at your same level, meeting your colleagues. I think a lot of times filmmakers want to jump the line and go to like 4 rungs in the ladder above them, and it's kind of hard to do that when you don't really have any other context for the other person. Sometimes it works. Awesome. Shoot your shot. But don't like not connect with fellow filmmakers because you're like, well, fellow filmmakers can't do anything for me. It's like, if they're not going to immediately get me on a TV show, then what's the point of meeting them? It's like, well, maybe they get on the TV show first. Maybe they get represented first. And if you're genuinely friends with your peers and you make an effort to be there for your peers, to support their films, to celebrate their successes, then it's funny how often that comes back to give you good things in return. So yeah, definitely want to underscore, talk to each other, talk to the fellow filmmakers at the event.
Yes. Actually, I feel like this seamlessly goes into another question that I thought was phenomenal. People always say short films are the business card for directors. Well, what's the benefit for producers to make shorts? Yeah, thoughts?
That's a good question. Good question. Yeah. Well, I'd say it's the same thing applies for everyone though, because it's showcasing what you can do in all areas. If you make a great film, not only about the award stuff. Okay, it's great if you go on and win big awards at festivals and have laurels of awards and winning, or it shows a certain level of course, success and you could point to that or share with people, or say now you can take it to an email a rep and say, hey, look, this is what we've done. This is what we've won with, and we have had the success, and that's all great. To the highest level, of course, the Oscars, it's all great, but it's still showing about it's what you can do. So now the producing aspect of it is more about how you put a film together. And for years we've had an award of like best producer for the festival. We want to recognize the producers, the production aspect of the films. They're very hard to pull off. That we want to recognize those producers that help make those films happen. Now it's not only about the money part, because there's some films, of course, that are going to be $100,000 and it's some grant money or something, or they have a lot of free stuff. If you have an amazing camera package from Panavision, that's a great prize, and they give you a grant of $10,000 and this and that. All of a sudden, your money goes far because you're not going to be spending the money, but it can look amazing. You can have a film so there's different tiers to that, but it still goes back to how good did everyone in the film do their job. So it's still a sort of calling card and sorts all of it, right? It says if your name's on something, people are looking to it and saying, hey, your name's on this, and then is it good or not? It's a reflection on you, anything you do, whether it's an event, whether you're an accountant, whatever job you do, whatever thing you put your name on, and in this case being films and filmmaking, you're a producer, you're a director, you're an actor. The actor in front of the camera, if their acting is strong in the film, that's a reflection on everyone, is also them. But if their acting is poor, it's a reflection on them and everyone too. So the producing aspect of it is it's still sort of the same way. It's the same thing applies, that how good of a producer are you? Can you pull these things together? How good of a film can you make and make something happen with maybe nothing or little? Because that's the case with many in the short film world. You're trying to, the average number used to be like $10,000, right? That was always kind of like the budget. You'd see like the idea of like, take 10 grand. How can you make the most of this? How many days you have to shoot with what you're trying to pull off? And now we're seeing shorts that are made on a bigger scale than ever before, with whether it's VFX stuff or all these things that go into it. So you're not making just a story of just a straight drama that's maybe shot in a few locations, or a film that's someone's on a park bench or an apartment. You see a lot of these a lot of times because it's no money. It's okay, let's go shoot something with some actors and make something happen. But that can be still really good or not, but you can do that. But you can also do there's a whole skill. We've have films now that are, it's a vampire story in 1850s and it's in Paris, and it's like stuff looks, the makeup, the practical VFX and the blood and the stuff, and then the creatures and everything is like, wow. You're like, and there's 50 extras in a scene. There's all this big scale. You're like, how did they pull this off? So there is all that to say that it's you're still going to be a reflection on how well you can do it. And so yes, from that standpoint, it's very important. Now, the money part of it, that's different, because you're putting a lot of money in, and you're not going to get the same return in the same way, in the same context of a straight one-to-one investment thing. It's just there's not as many opportunities that way to do that. It's more about the long term of where you're trying to go with the
gaining experience and exposure and credibility along the way. Like, I can. It's a fair statement that like the producer's sort of overview on a film is a lot more abstract than a director. A director can cut a reel that's a very clear showcase of like directing decisions I made that look nice on film. It's a little bit more abstract for producers. However, all of the stuff about the experience gained, all the stuff that Daniel was saying about like how it looks good to have laurels and films that you have produced that have been in festivals, like it's going to be more of a resume builder and about like, look at all of the different kinds of things I can produce. Look at how impressive they are. Look at the breadth of my skills. I've worked with 2 actor movies. I've worked with 50 actor movies. So it's really just about like gaining credibility in the space. And also, as a producer, you are more likely than anyone else on the crew to be getting paid for your support because what you do is so valuable. And then the last thing I would say is that most producers that I know are not only producers, they're like director producers, they're writer producers. And I think that every film crew member should produce at least once, because until you look at the macro level of putting together a full piece from development all the way through distribution and submitting to film festivals, you really don't you don't know what you don't know. And so having that experience as a producer, even if producing isn't like your main thing, I think is a really valuable experience to have, so that you can better, put together, delegate responsibilities and money in the future.
Yeah, man. From my recent experience, I just my 2 cents, I can definitely say that while I can't necessarily take something from the reel and go, look, this is the result of my decision making, that cover letter question very much is, right? So when I put together that press kit, I put my stamp on it as a producer and say, this is not only what I'm capable of, but this is what I stand for. So if you're trying to, solidify your brand, it really helps to show what your brand is. And then, when you go to those festivals, for me at least, I need someone to speak on my behalf as to what I do well. So having a testimonial from my director, from my writer, and say, yes, of course she can secure financing and a location and we can build sets, but also she's really great to work with. Or when we have to do those really hard developmental calls, with just the writer and the director, she is a leader in small groups and in big groups, right? And if you don't know to pull on those threads of value from your testimonials as well, I think you are going to lose out as a producer, because they're they're there to speak for you so that you're not just selling yourself. But that's my 2 cents as a producer having to.
It's all about who you know. If no one knows you,
it's hard to. I know there's a lot of producers that we have seen over the years. There's a number of producers that have been at the festival many times. They produce like 10 to 15, 20, 30 shorts over the years. So we've had them at the fest many times. So they're always producing great stuff over the years. So they're collaborating with a lot of different people, showing the breadth of their sort of knowledge, their scope, and how many stories. It's not only just this. They're always making these horror films all the time. This is fine. I love it. It's just an example, but like they're making different things. They made a horror film, they're also doing a drama and a social impact drama and a documentary about this, and it's really great rom-com. So their scope is showing that they can make films in all types of ways. And then last point on that is that is also the talent you work with and who you can attach to and who they trust. And they trust you, you trust them. If they go, you go with. And we see it oftentimes where a filmmaker who's on sort of on the rise now, or their career is taking the next step, and now that producer, and we've seen it often, not always, because there's been some where they've kind of unfortunately been left behind, or things, or they didn't work out on the feature side or whatever. But there's been some we know very well that they're sort of along at the hip. Producer, director, they're a team. They've done these shorts together for years. They're doing these features now, and they're together for years, and they just work together for a long time. And that's great to see that collaboration, so that they've all sort of graduated together, and that's what you want to see. So for both parties, that's great, and they work together and collaborate continuously for many years, and work together for a long time.
Ooh, wait until you guys hear my story. I have literally met my producing partner literally on a short that took 4 years through all of COVID. Y'all, you don't even know. In fact, I kind of want to know from you guys, because I know you guys have been listening for the last, hour and some, and I know you're just like eager to get started on your short film or possibly submit it into festivals. We are going to wrap up here in the next few minutes. But before we do, for those of you who were not here in the opening, I want to make sure that you take a moment and give thanks to these amazing leaders in the industry. So if you would, go ahead and take out your phone, take a little picture. I'm personally I'm gonna soup it up here and do a little boomerang. Bam. All right. It's going on the gram. And then if you would, Kevin, thanks so much for leaving those links in the chat for everybody to tag us so we can say thank you to these wonderful people. Don't forget that the HollyShorts Institute, the application is now open. So Kevin, if you can leave that link for everybody as well. And as you begin your filmmaking journey and leveling it up, I highly recommend that you sign up for Stage 32. It's a free resource to you. And it just so happens that in July, we are going to be doing the Filmmaker Challenge, which means that if you have a goal, something that you want to level up with, this is a great time to, team up, right? Find new people or level up a skill, right? Try something new. So with that in mind, now that you have all the goods and you know exactly what to do, let's do a little lightning round in the next few minutes. Any thoughts or advice you would give filmmakers right now who want to get their short film into festivals so that they're no longer rejected, they finally get accepted? Top 3 things that they can do right now to make sure that they stand on the best leg.
Top 3 things: do your research. Don't just submit willy-nilly or because it's only $5. Submit because you think it will meaningfully move your career forward, move your goals forward, whatever that is. So do your research. Don't just submit willy-nilly. I would say, do you have one, Daniel? You want to go back and forth? What's your first one?
Well, real quick before I jump in, I know there's a lot of awesome questions I've been seeing Kevin post in our internal chat. So I would love to answer a lot of those somehow, some way. So just throwing a question back to us, what's the best way for us to do it? Should we have a form or something?
Yes, send us an email.
Actually,
and we do have a form.
Yeah, go ahead. So and then maybe that's a bad question because Kay's like, I got this already. And I'm just making sure.
No.
I was like, I don't know. I just saw it like, wow, there's some good questions. Like, I got to jump, but I can't jump in and just answer them. So yeah.
It depends on the kind of questions you have, because if they're questions that maybe the rest of as I run into my microphone, if there are questions that the rest of the community can, kind of bounce off of and everybody can benefit from, so it's kind of more general questions, I would throw it in. I have an official lounge post for Stage 32 in the Filmmaker Lounge, so that anything that we discuss from this panel, y'all can take it through all of the July Filmmaking Challenge and really build on that information. So throw your questions in there, get the community conversation started. But if you have something very specific about your project or specifically about submitting or applying to the HollyShorts Institute, Bree, you said you have your email in there as well? Is that?
Yeah, I threw my email in the chat, and then there's also
Awesome.
a form if you have HollyShorts Institute questions that just got shared. Yeah, get info on the HollyShorts Institute. That link will take you to just a quick Google form. So leave your questions there. But if your question didn't get answered, we're so sorry. There were just so many good questions.
Yeah,
so
I've seen so many good ones. There's some good ones there, but obviously we're just in the flow of conversation. I was like, yeah, I was just seeing.
So reach out. You have lots of ways to contact us now. So reach out, and we're happy to answer those questions.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
man.
we have our information there. Yeah. So, but yeah, back to and then yeah. So the one I would say I think I always bring up in all stuff is really just this is a pretty obvious one. Is the first one I'd say is you mentioned credits earlier, a bit on a different part of the topic, but and opening credit sequences do not need to really exist. Make sure to eliminate that when
for shorts, especially
for shorts. I'm speaking, of course, on the shorts. Yeah, just don't. If it's just, it's just basically we don't like it. Most programmers don't like it. It's not necessary for the story. If you're getting into the story too slowly, it's just I don't know. For lack of a better way of saying, I guess really just hate it. To be honest, it's not needed. We just hate it. We hate it. It's not needed. The story, if your film's 10 minutes long, you're spending 3 minutes on that. It doesn't really make sense. It's not setting up a story well enough or needed at all. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. It's going to make a lot of programmers will just instantly sort of be like turned off and say, okay, this is probably not going to work. The negative perception starts off. Your first image is your first. It needs to be strong to start. Like you really want to get everyone excited watching the film, and especially when it comes to the process of judging and reviewing. And programmers are watching a lot of movies, so you want to get everyone excited to start. So if it starts off with this, all the credits should be at the end, and then give everyone the proper due and credits at the end as needed. But just do it then, and just so try to avoid when possible the lengthy opening credit sequence.
Yeah, man.
That's the first one. But I don't know.
A bunch of names we don't know should not be our first impression of your project. We'll know them at the end. We'll be appreciative of them at the end.
More of the visual storytelling or the story in general, just getting right into the story to get us hooked is going to work much better than that. So yeah. But yeah, we're back to Brianna. We're going to just go back and forth. So that was.
Yeah, I would say my second one is something that we talked about a little bit about the base competency, which you can learn more about at the HollyShorts Institute. Plug. But I really do think sometimes I'll get filmmakers who are like, I just didn't have the money, so I'm sorry the sound is bad, but like I had to put my money elsewhere. And it's like, well, if your money isn't the technical stuff that will allow us to even like watch your film, let alone appreciate it for the great craft that you're putting into it, then what is the point? So be thoughtful about the technical aspects. I'm not saying you need to go out and rent a 4K camera. I'm not saying you need to go out and rent $2 million sound equipment they use on the Radford lot. I am saying be thoughtful about the technical process of your film. It's not something you can hand wave, and no amount of excuses will make this a film that is going to sound good at a big screening. So don't do that to yourself. Don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. It does not have to be expensive, but it does have to be thoughtful.
Yeah, I forgot to mention the other short film that so Emily Skye of She Wolf Films did River before doing the feature River, and she did it through COVID. And she mentioned that when she did her short, the only thing she spent money on was sound mixing, lenses, and color, and of course food for her crew. But that was it, because if you only have so much money, you have to make sure sound is good, you have to make sure color is good, and of course, if you're gonna play a little with your camera stuff, lenses is a easy way in without getting a whole package. So yeah, sound is a really good note. Thanks for that, Bree.
Yeah, well, I mean, this film it looked like it was probably more expensive than it was, and that's always a nice thing to see. If you for our perception, we don't know. If you put it there, you can lie. Some people say my film is $500 and it's really spent 20 grand. I don't know. You can just tell us what you want. It may be not accurate. You might be lying. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. What does it look like? What is the end result? So you could say you spent 100 grand, but if the sound's awful, you're like, what the hell did you spend your money on? You made mistakes. That looks like you didn't know what you were doing, or it's a bad reflection. So it all can be both sides of the coin. But yeah, Emily's film, that film looked phenomenal, sounded phenomenal, and was great, and pulled off with a lot with a little, and it made it feel bigger and more than that was with the reflection, or probably what was spent. So that's always a nice thing. You want to be able to walk away and say, hey, did the film feel like more than I put in? Like, does it look like, $1 million? Did it feel that way? Did it feel like the filmmaker, the crew, the team everything was a lot of intention, and was a lot of or a lot of money spent when it wasn't, and it looks that way and feels that way. Like, wow, this feels like a really big budgeted film, or does it feel that way? Does that feeling, do we walk away watching the film feeling that way about? So that's a lot of technical stuff that does matter. That if that's done well, it's a reflection on the film and on you. And again, thinking of the scheme of like, okay, we're going to show this on the big screen, and with the full audience, a lot of people in a theatrical experience, not just online streaming, but in a theatrical experience, and in a quality theatrical experience. How is that gonna play? Is it gonna be something that it just can't translate, or is going to be poor? That's going to reflect on not only the filmmaker but on the festival as well. And then that doesn't work. But so that stuff, it does matter, and it helps if you can make a film look like a lot with a little. It's very impressive, and it's very impressive whether it's pulling favors, whether it's
we'll teach you how to do that. Like, there's literally a whole workshop.
That's a big, it's a big part of the discussion, is it's how to make, because you can do a lot with little. You don't have to come in and spend it. Now, yes, it helps if you have no favors, no nothing. Then obviously, if you don't have some camera package or friends to pull from, there might be some things you can't. But there's a lot you can do. It's a lot you can do with
a lot more than you think you can do too,
and make a film really strong and look good. It's not just about what movies are spent. Oh, this short, they had this big budget, and sometimes it's the opposite. The knock is, for years we would look at stuff and we would sort of almost take the opposite approach. We would get more negative on a film. Oh, they spent all this money and it looks like so, and then there's no story. The acting's not strong, and so the direction seems a bit. It's like, yeah, okay, you built up a nice set, you spent money to make it look like a 1940s war movie, and there's all these things, but you have the props, you have this, but the story is flat, the acting is poor. There's a lot of problems. Now you feel like, okay,
all the actors are dead-eyed, and you're like,
it's just spent a lot of money. The opposite. So they're not going to be like, we have to put it in because it has to be programmed. It looks so good. That all ends up actually being a negative. So it could actually be the opposite effect of. It's not looking like this. It's almost it could have the opposite effect there, and actually sort of become detrimental. But yeah. Sorry.
Final lightning advice. Do we have final
lightning advice?
So that was that. Were we back to the lightning? Yeah, back to lightning. So we have that. Be mindful of runtime only, in the sense of is every scene, is everything in the film serving the story? Is it serving the story? Is it necessary in serving the story? Is seeing the dialogue, the lines? Sometimes you do have to cut out material, acting that just maybe a great moment that's like interesting. Oh, like it just was great. And when you're watching dailies, you're like, okay, look, this great moment. Or you're editing, you're like looking at it, and you're like, this was a cool, funny moment. The actor really had a great moment. Some improv or something in this that was shot. And you're like, okay, that's great and all, but it's got to go. If it has to go, it has to go. It's not serving the story especially when it comes to short, where you're trying to tell a certain specific story that might be very specific. If it's not serving that, then it's got to go. So that's something that's I think that's, I guess, be mindful of that, or have the intention of is every frame, or is everything in the film telling the story.
And we'll have advice on how to garner useful feedback from people that you're screening it for early before you submit to a film festival at the HollyShorts Institute. I will say, so my final piece of lightning advice is that not every film needs to go through a film festival system in order to have a long, productive life as a piece of art that is useful to you in your career. And it's important to be honest with yourself and your team about whether or not your film fits in that category. It has nothing to do with if the film is good or bad, but if it simply doesn't make sense at the festivals that you're looking at as being, valuable partners to you, then don't waste your time and your money. Go somewhere else. There's a lot of ways that indie films, short films, web series, features get distributed these days. And while festivals can be hugely powerful, they're not always the right move for the phase in your career that you're in. So ask questions, talk to other filmmakers, talk to festival programmers before committing a lot of money to something that might not even be the right path for you. Don't spend money needlessly. I want you to be spending money on making more movies, not on submitting fruitlessly to festivals that ultimately aren't going to get you any closer to your goals.
Right.
Yeah, paying attention, that's important. Yeah, because we've seen stuff. We have our comedy shorts. I mentioned the Comedy Fest, where we're seeing a lot of films that are not comedies submitted. So they obviously not paying
redirections. The lightning advice is redirections.
So in that aspect, we're not looking, and some of them are actually they're just very good films, but they're just not. They're not comedies, and we're watching kind of like, wait, is there am I missing? Is there going to be something? Because then it could be a dark comedy. Maybe there's a moment or something in the film. Maybe one moment feels comedic. So I'm like, why? There's nothing there. It's very heavy, and like, does not belong here. So we watch the film, but it does not fit in all what we're looking for there. So there is that part of just making sure you're paying attention to to where you're submitting and why, not just saying, all right, I want to really try to get this thing out there as everywhere as possible and just really submit across the board.
Right.
Just because sort of cast the big net and just throw it out. There's money involved with that, casting that net. So just be a little more mindful of where film should go or why when submitting that process.
Yeah, man. This has been so energizing, so inspiring. Thank you both so much for taking the time to share your knowledge, share your insights. And guys, everybody who is listening right now, do not forget, click on that link to get your application started. Certainly sign up for Stage 32 so you can continue to grow your network as you level up as a filmmaker. And we'll see you in the community. I think that's all for
Bye,
us now.
everyone. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
Now they just start playing us off.